Disgusting, shocking, suffocating. These are a few ways you can describe Shozin Fukui's 1991 effort, Pinocchio 964. Beyond its gross and startling imagery is a film with a tremendous amount of heart, delving into what it means to find hope where it appears to be so sparse. Combined with its anti-consumerist themes and guerrilla visuals, this is achieved in the most oppressive way possible. While it can be easy to write this off based off its image, once you take a chance, maybe you will find catharsis yourself.
Boy, do I have a doozy for you guys. We watched Pinocchio 964 by Mr. Shozin Fukui from 1991. This is regarded as like a cult film within the cyberpunk genre, which cyberpunk in Japan is obviously, cyberpunk in America is birthed from films like Blade Runner and such. In Japan, you had notable films like Tetsuo the Iron Man, Shinya Tsukamoto, which Shozin Fukui was on the set. He was like a helping hand on that film.
Oh, really?
Yep. Crazy Thunder Road and by Sogo Ishii, and he did another film called Burst City, which many regard as the first ever cyberpunk film. And then films like Pinocchio 964, pretty short-lived, little, I don't know what you would call it, zeitgeist, is I guess the wrong word, little like moment in time in film. It took place mainly in the late 80s, 90s. There was a very small, I guess you could say revival of some sorts, where you had Sogo Ishii made a film called Electric Dragon 80,000 Volts, which seemed to be pretty much just a goodbye to cyberpunk. And also films like Elevator the Wild Fools, which fly a little bit under the radar. Yeah, we have seen that. You can argue that is a cyberpunk film.
Yeah.
So many of the themes would present in modern day cyberpunk.
Yeah.
There's a lot to talk about this film.
Yeah, so I don't know what I was expecting. I remember last time we had a chat at the last movie club, we were talking, you mentioned it, and then I Googled the synopsis. Would you like to read the synopsis, or should I read the synopsis?
What do you feel like, man? Who do you think it would sound better?
I'll read the synopsis because I feel like you know it pretty well.
Yeah.
So obviously, I didn't know anything about this film, and then you said, "Oh, you should watch a film called 964 Pinocchio," and I was like, "Okay, fine, I'm up for it. This is what we're doing here. We're discovering new films together, or revisiting old films together." So then I looked at the synopsis, and you got to understand, this is what I was greeted with. Okay. Pinocchio 964. A lobotomized cyborg sex slave is abandoned by his owners due to his inability to maintain an erection, while the corporate entity plans to kill him. So you got to understand, going into this movie, I had a lot of questions. I had a lot of questions, and I knew exactly what it was going to be like, because you did a very good job of warning me in advance that it's not for everyone, and it's very surreal. I think that was the first thing I'll say about it. It is very surrealistic, very punk, very strong start, for lack of a better word. And it's just fucking weird from start to finish. I feel like it's all gas, no brakes. Even when it's like quiet moments, it's like there's still something bubbling. It's a very horny movie. If I'm being real, it feels horny at the start, and then it kind of becomes surreal at the end, in the midsection, I'd say. But I actually quite enjoyed it.
Oh.
Once I got out of my own head, and I stopped thinking about it like this is weird, and I just like stared at the screen for more than 5 seconds, I was like, I kind of fuck with it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, there's a lot to like. There's a lot to like about this film, I think. First of all, this is a pretty low-budget film. The version I watched I have a Blu-ray copy by Media Blasters, not to do whatever that was, but my Media Blasters, they released a little Blu-ray version, restored, and it looks incredible.
I can imagine it does, because I watched the YouTube version.
Yeah.
It's on YouTube.
Looks good. That was the first time I watched it, but I had to get this when I saw this come out. And it looks amazing. And it's a very low budget film. Shozin Fukui has said that the project has less money than a B or C film. So
Holy shit!
I
didn't know that. I thought it looked quite high.
Oh,
you could have fooled me if you have told me it had a big budget. I would have been like, yeah, I could see how. Some of the shots and the set pieces.
Yeah, I watched. Sorry, continue.
That's okay. I was just saying it's very gritty and it looks great. Like it's a really well shot movie.
Yeah, the DVD also came with like special extras with a little interview, about half an hour interview with him. He mentioned that this is less money than B or C films, which makes the set design and everything around it pretty fucking incredible. All the characters look really cool. Pinocchio, for as tortured as he is, I think he looks. That's a really cool like design.
Yeah, the hair is, and how he gets progressively more like final form as it goes along. It's like by the end, he's like in his perfect fit. He's got like the ginger hair and the outfit.
He looks so cool, man. He looks incredible. Like the ash and the metallic, all this like all this stuff on him. He looks incredible. Everything about the film is pretty much looks incredible. The sound design is amazing. Very punk. I think it's probably the most punk film I've seen, I'd say, in my lifetime. I'd say.
I don't think I ever will see a film that hit me in the punk department. You know what I mean?
It's so punk. Apparently, Fukui also said it couldn't be classed as cyberpunk, so they had to label it as industrial noise punk, which fits.
That does fit. Why not? Do you know why?
He did not mention why. He just said this couldn't be categorized as cyberpunk.
Maybe there's not enough screens, not enough tech.
I don't know. It's like, I guess, they're working with what's
very dystopian.
It's dystopian, which much like most cyberpunk, and much like the internet, you could say. But let's not go there yet.
Yeah, it's the last 2 episodes we talked about the internet.
So this is kind of linked in a way, by just technology, but it's extremely punk. Apparently, industrial noise punk.
I love that as a genre, industrial noise punk, dude. That sounds so cool.
It sounds really sick, but for I guess simplicity's sake, I'll refer to this as a cyberpunk film.
Yeah,
because I think throughout, in recent memory, it's been somewhat reclaimed by fans as a cyberpunk film. I guess you could say reclaimed, but
because you said this has like a cult following, no?
This does much like. It's less popular than Tetsuo the Iron Man, which is a film probably you should have seen before to get to grips with the genre, but this is not what the podcast is about. It's not about the fucking
watching stuff we wouldn't have watched normally.
And Tetsuo is a great film. It's similarly low budget, but I think this is on a much lower budget. But beyond its technicalities, I think it's an incredibly heartfelt film, man. It's kind of beautiful. Obviously, I guess the main themes would be this pretty much touches on anti-consumerism. Pinocchio. He's been discarded by his owners.
Yeah,
thrown out in the trash. Very punk to do an anti-consumerist film.
Yeah,
and the big evil corporation trying to destroy him and whatnot. But there's such scenes like when Himiko's teaching him English, right? Or teaching him his name. And then he learns his name. Beautiful scene. I was touched.
She's like gassing him up, and like I love the scene in the supermarket.
Oh, dude, it's great. He's
when they're just like walking around, like they dress like an East London couple. Like
they do. Like, I've seen 5 of these motherfuckers today.
Just walking around Dalston. I'm like, there's a fucking 5 of these guys. It was such a cool scene, man. Of them like just like holding hands and going through that. I really that one really stuck with me. I thought it was really sweet. Within the context of what was coming, I was like, this is actually quite a sweet scene in reality.
Yeah, there was another scene where he goes missing for a bit when in the subway, and she finds him at home, and she like hugs him, and I guess they like make love. But it's so like, I know, watching this scene, I don't know how anyone could like discard this as just pure shock value.
Yeah,
this is for as like grotesque as it is, it's not mean spirited at all. It's really not mean spirited at all. This is a very like it's a very touching film. I think even towards like the end, which I don't know if we want to skip right there already, but
if you can just top line and then we'll go beat for beat. But yeah, top line ending if you want. Yeah,
the ending where I have to go more in depth in that. Let's save that towards the end because there's a lot to get into.
Why don't we start with like I'll start with my notes, each scene and bits that I noted, and you can kind of help me unpack it and then explain to me what the fuck this film's about.
I'll do my best.
Because it's not as clear to me as like Pulse. I had a bit more of a Pulse, and obviously I'm friended. Obviously, I kind of had a bit more understanding what was going on. So the first thing I wrote was the opening street scene when she's got the binoculars and he falls into her lap initially. First of all, that's really, really special, beautiful cinematography. Yeah. All the people around, they had to be real people.
Yep. All the stuff in public, that's completely just regular civilians.
It was too real. Like, it felt so real. I was like, there's no way in hell this isn't. These aren't actors.
He mentioned that they shot it guerrilla style, right? So anything you see in the public, in the subway, in the streets, those are just real people.
Wow.
And they do a lot of fucked up stuff there. And I think it's so fascinating.
It is. It was really cool. I found myself scouting the pedestrians around, and I was like, yeah, there's no way these are just passerbys.
Yeah, even it's just like it's like a relic of time, right? That's just not Tokyo in the 90s or Shibuya in the 90s. It's just really fascinating to see them from that lens, and also just to see how they react to all of this like mayhem.
Yeah, it's so cool. And then I wrote down about the supermarket scene being really special. I found myself smiling during it. Like, I caught myself in the third person. I was just like smiling like a proud mum on Christmas morning, just like, look at these two, huh?
It's so endearing, man. It's so endearing.
And I like that initially when he like falls into her lap and stuff, it's like she doesn't shrug him off or push him away or get grossed out. She's just like, yo, like, you okay?
Yeah.
Why are you here? Why are you in my lap right now? Who are you? So I wrote down, the shopping center scene is really cool. And I also wrote that the first 20 minutes, I want to say, it's almost shot like a theater production. There's these really incredibly long takes when they first get to like the base, the home, when they're in like it's just this one camera and they're just like playing around the scene. I was like, this is like I couldn't like notice if it was cutting. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, so I believe some of the people in the film are either like friends of his from theater troupes he was in, or like friends of his in bands he was in. Mm-hmm. Just that. It's just these are like no actual quote unquote professional actors. Like, for example, when shooting the dolly, they didn't have like an actual dolly. So one of the crew members is a nurse. So she got a wheelchair from the hospital she used to work at. And you just put the camera on there and use it as a dolly.
That's so cool. So good, so guerrilla, but it works, right?
Yeah, it fucking it's a real heart. What's a real like how would you say? I don't know.
Passion project.
Yeah, it's a real passion project. I know.
You can tell that the people that made it really give a shit.
On a sentimental
especially now,
level,
I know it's low budget.
Do you know what I mean? It's like I know seeing people like have a vision like this and everyone come together to create it is very inspiring, and especially on such a small scale without any like crazy equipment. It's still able to make something as it's quite remembered now. It's pretty like it has a legacy. It's lasted the test of time. And if anything, it's gotten better with age. It's gotten more fans with age, and just create something that lasted so long with so little.
Yeah, sentimentally,
it's very inspiring.
Yeah. Then I wrote, I can't tell the exact scene, but there's a pause and a fade to black about 30 minutes in.
yeah. That fucked me up when I watched this.
And I was like, that shit was biblical.
Yeah. I was
like, there's no fucking way I've watched this movie already. It came out of nowhere. I was like, oh, is the fucking stream busted? Or
yeah, I thought my TV was bugging out. I was like, whoa.
But I was like, why don't more films have like pauses halfway through scenes and then just fade to black for no fucking reason? That was a long pause too, man.
It was a long pause. It was like it froze. And then it just faded to black.
It reached the point where I was like, oh, my screen's fucked.
Yeah, I thought, my PS4, I fucked up the remote.
My graphics card's fucked, dude.
Yeah, I was like, oh, no, man, no.
Yeah, I mean, so that's kind of the first act, I want to say.
Yeah, that's pretty much the first act. Second act is when shit starts hitting the fan.
So that's my next note. My next note is, I regret eating during this scene.
Oh.
And it's when he starts vomiting yellow shit. And then there's a really cool stop motion shot of him from like a distance.
Yeah.
And I was like, why the fuck am I eating rice right now?
Yeah, are you
big
talking
regrets.
about the subway scene where she suffers like a mental lapse and her memory doesn't return, and she goes, for lack of a better term, insane, and she starts screaming through the subway, and it's like,
that's real too, right?
Yep, and then she stops. The vomit obviously isn't real because it's a lot of vomit.
I put the scrambled eggs.
Yeah, scrambled eggs. I'm pretty sure it's all rice at one point.
And she just like falls into it and rolls around in it.
Yeah, and it's like there's a lot, and there's just these people reacting to it, and people will compare the scene to like, have you seen Possession?
A long time ago.
Yeah, I mean, there's that famous scene in the subway with Isabella Gianni, like going and screaming. I guess there's similarities there. That came out about a decade or so earlier. Well, less than a decade or so earlier before this film. So probably a little bit of influence there.
Yeah.
But there's a Austrian film called Angst, which I think has a little bit more parallels to this, just based on the first person shots and just the erratic like running.
Yeah.
They're both filmed in, I'd say, a similar way.
Yeah.
But the subway scene, I'd love to tell you it got easy on the second watch, but it did not, and I could not look at that.
I don't know what I expected, to be honest, bro, but I come out of it on the other side feeling way more positive about it than I did when I watched it. Yeah, when I was watching, I was like, "This is just fucking gross," and it just kept going.
Yeah,
everyone just was throwing up. No one stopped. There was like just 10 minutes, and then afterwards, I was like, it was kind of sick. But the fact now I know that subway running and everything was real. That's so cool.
It's so cool.
And I guess it makes so much sense.
Maybe a bit morally ambiguous, but fucking hell, it's cool, man. And I think they should do it again.
More films you just film in public spaces for no reason.
I mean, like, if like, I don't know, Sam Pepper or whoever is doing that shit in public, why can't we get another? I don't know if he still makes prank videos in public. That's probably a bad.
It's a bad analogy. You can't really draw a line between Sam Pepper and this movie, but
this is more ethical. This is more ethical.
This feels more ethical, yeah.
Yeah,
because at least there's a non-predatory like monetary outcome. This is just like making art, right?
Yeah, and I can't imagine they thought this would make money.
Yeah. Maybe I missed this, but why? Okay, so we're not at that point in the story, but this is something I'm curious about. This kind of me I didn't get on my first watch is why does she turn evil?
I like to think.
Why does she snap?
Well, her memory's coming back, and she is also like a victim of the cyborg infiltration or whatever. So I'd like to think it's just, I don't know, mental trauma, you could say, supposedly, or wiring gone wrong, right. Where there's a lot happening at once.
Mm-hmm.
So she doesn't know what exactly to do. And Pinocchio is the closest person in her proximity. So she takes it out on him because it's too much to bear on her end.
And
it all comes to a fucking like explosion right at the end. But before that, she's kind of abusing him, much like you'd probably say she was being abused when she was held as a, I guess you say, captor, prisoner, slave. Well, slave is the right term, I'd say. She's abusing him, and she chains him to this like slab of granite.
Fucking so metal, dude.
It's sick, and this leads to the scene which I think of the most.
Is it the street, running through the streets?
Yeah.
It's so good.
It's insane. It feels like about 5 minutes straight of him screaming.
One of my notes I wrote is this might be the world's longest run ever. The first person shot was insanely cool.
Yeah,
it's such a good scene, man, where he's just like running through the streets and it lasts so long.
It lasts an insanely long time, but I couldn't look away. I still couldn't look away. I don't know.
We know that there's probably a real street, real people.
Yeah,
right?
It's
and he's just like
real.
Fucking full sprinting down it. Like, it was so cool. And then like the POV of the face and like it was like, it's so good. But you're right that I couldn't stop watching that scene. I was like just looking. I didn't look away once. I was just like, that's so good.
I think that's when it reaches this like, what I'd say it borders into masterpiece territory. Like not anyone can get away with throwing in like a running and screaming scene for that long without everything going to shit, but it fucking worked because this film just keeps hammering you over the head with all this like oppressive nature and abrasive energy. It's so electric, dude.
It's so electric. It's so visceral, and it was just like so. It was so like, but yeah, it was just really visceral, and it was just so cool. And I think that was a standout scene for me. Was just how well made that was, and how just fucking cool it was, and like his whole journey, like from the streets to the fucking grassy plain to the base. So cool.
Yeah, I think Pinocchio is such a sympathetic figure too, because he poor guy, he just keeps getting abused left and right, and
he can't catch a break, dude.
He seemingly found like, I don't know, someone who loves him with Himiko, and she takes care of him, and it's very touching. You know, they seem like they genuinely do love one another. I think at the end, I'm pretty sure there was always love there, because right at the end, like when it was also really great to see him just kill these motherfuckers. Fuck these guys.
Cool, dude.
Fuck these guys. You know, it was so satisfying to see him just murk these fools. And like,
there was a line that I thought really good. There's two lines actually that I wrote down. It was when she chains him to the concrete, she says, "I tricked your silly ass." Now, I don't know if that's like a translation thing or that's the actual line. That's so funny.
I think it did. It was also that scene like when like the rubbish goes on her head and she's got this gunk. She's fucking terrifying.
Yeah. It was so cool. And then there's the other line that I think one of the guys say where he says, "Be nice and die quickly."
Yeah.
I thought that was so good.
It's so funny, man.
So good.
She's like, I don't know. Towards the end, he turns her into her head becomes balloon. She kind of looks like the moon. He like in the midst of his like onslaught. There was so much happening at once. I don't know if I could take everything in necessarily. There's so much when her head becomes like a fucking like giant moon, and he hugs her, man. He hugs her.
Yeah.
Even in all this pain, he's still able to feel love. You know, and it's insane. Like all these Himiko and Pinocchio are regarded pretty much as not human beings. And obviously the government people or like the organization are. But they're the most human characters, you know? Pinocchio is extremely human.
he has complex emotions, man, beyond like money.
And towards the end, and they're like, I'm happy now. I'm happy. And it's just, I don't know. I felt good. This is a hopeful ending. For such a bleak film, this is a pretty hopeful ending.
So my notes for that scene was... how can this film get any weirder? Oh, it can. Why is he crusty? Why is she a rock person? Acting's incredible, but what is going on? Please help me. That was my your average viewing experience of that scene. But there was a guy in that scene, you know the guy in the yellow trousers?
Yeah.
He does the soy face. Like,
yeah, he does. He does.
He's doing the soy face in every single wide shot of him. He's in the back like... And it sent me, dude. And then obviously he does a really great little... when he just starts laughing and goes crazy and dies or whatever. It was like, that was awesome. But up until that, I was like, he's just like doing this soy face, man.
There's a part where they die and he's like bleeding. And it looks like he's bleeding berries.
There's something else on the floor that I was like, what is that? That's not blood.
Like when the woman, the villainess, I don't know, his secretary or something, his assistant, I saw this like milk. She was drinking milk earlier. I don't know what that was.
It was so fucking weird, dude.
On the ending, Fukui, the director, he said that, and I quote, this is from the little interview thing, he said, I wanted to show, quote unquote, I wanted to show what happened if the dominant power which comes with mental anguish exceeds physical tolerance is expanded. Pinocchio and Himiko were physically destroyed in the film. What I wanted to show is how their consciousnesses unite. Therefore, it may appear very tragic, but their consciousnesses are very happy. So that is what he wanted.
I kind of see. I see where he's going with that.
Yeah, it's a pretty happy ending, and
all things considered,
yeah, it's obviously there's the anti-consumerist capitalist commentary on it. And there's also you could also relate it that this is how the government society they treat people they deem like unwanted or not useful.
What would you, if you had to summarize what the film's about, we kind of gone through play for play there, right? So if you had to summarize the movie, like what the actual message is or what the theme is or what, obviously you've read the interview, so I feel like you have a bit more of an informed opinion on it, but what would you say?
Well, I'm going to put the
interview
interview
this is
to
also
aside.
why, just before you say that, sorry, because this is one of your top 5 movies of all time, right?
I'd say so at this point.
Okay, cool.
So.
So with that in mind, what do you...
Well, I'm going to be completely
about?
biased and put aside any of Mr. Fukui's intentions. Sorry, but you know, based on me, I'd say this movie is about love. I'd say at the end of the day, if you have love, you don't need anything else. Well, you need some things, but you know, this film is about love. Pinocchio, despite his pain and his torture, he still keeps hope and he still has a love. And at the end of the day, it's a film for all the family to watch around the dinner table.
Fuck no, dude. Fuck no. I'm glad I watched one on my own, and because I just feel like the vibe would have been too weird to watch with someone.
Yeah, my mom walked in. I was at home to watch this, and my mom walked in and out, and I was like, "Please, please don't do this."
What scene was it?
She just heard the screaming and she just walked out. It was like any of these. I think towards the end, and thankfully, none of the couple of sex scenes that were right at the beginning.
It was front loaded. That was my other thing. Is like when I read the synopsis, I was like, "This is just going to be like softcore porn."
Yeah, it's really not.
But after those initial scenes at the start, it's actually pretty chill.
Yeah, it hooks you, man. You have to get I guess you got to get the gooners in, and then you got to tell them some stories.
Yeah, scene for the boys, and then we can get to the scenes for the men later.
You know, I guess sex sells, and they need to make this movie have sex.
But I mean, it's not. I wouldn't argue it's any worse than like 90% of 80s slashers.
No, it's not, man. It's really not. It's not that. It's not really that vulgar in sexuality. I've seen like, worse in probably like fucking. I don't know. I Know What You Did Last Summer or any of that shit.
A lot of those eras, like those old campy slashers of that time, like they just had tits for no reason. Do you know what I mean? Like it was just to keep people engaged. This one, obviously, it was relatable to the story.
It needed boobies because you know there are sex robots.
Yeah, at the end of the day, when you have sex cyborgs, you kind of have to have some sex in there, sprinkle it in. So you think it's about love?
I'd say it's about love as well as, you know, the anti-capitalist message. It's about being true to oneself. Don't let the haters get you down. No, I think it's about love. You know, you could also relate it to modern love. How commodified everything is and such.
So I would say my take would be that it was about like I lent more into the consumerism stuff. But this is my first watch, going in blind. So the stuff that stuck with me was like the idea that these corporate bodies have these things, products, let's say, and then they use them, and then they're like, what the fuck do we do with them? We recall them if they're defective, or we just like put them in a trash heap somewhere and hope for the best. I took from it, take that same logic and apply it to humans. You served your purpose at this company, you're on your ass. But obviously it's just a very literal version of that, but it's a similar about that. And
I agree with everything you're saying. I think all those points are true. I think it's a film you can infer a lot of stuff from. You know, I'd say to the people watching this, obviously if you're sensitive to such topics as gore, puke, and sex, maybe don't watch it.
Yeah, it's definitely a hard one to recommend, I think.
But I think if you can look past that, you might find something you really like here. This is he's made another film called Robber's Lover, which I'd say it's supposedly a prequel to this. I'd say this, but
unofficial,
complete opposite vibes. I think.
Oh, really?
Where this film is full of compassion and empathy. That film has none. That film is very mean-spirited and very brutal. I like it. I'd never watch it again, but I'd like it. And I don't recommend you guys watch this, but watch that one. But this film, I think there's a lot to like here. I think there's a lot people can get into. I think there's a lot of viewers or listeners you might like in this. Speaking on my behalf, everyone I recommended this to and has watched it, they've loved it. So if you want to take my word for it, you can, but ultimately you have your own mind.
Yeah, I'd say it's hard to recommend, but if you get in the door and you go into it with like an open mind and you try not to think about it too deeply and just take it in and ingest it, yeah. I mean, I'm glad I saw it.
Yeah,
it wasn't like what I expected, but also I don't know what I expected because it was like I'm glad I didn't like look into it beyond the plot.
Yeah, I remember the first time I found out about this film, I could really not imagine what the fuck this could be.
Right.
And I couldn't find this for ages. I for like about a year. I was like, what the hell? 964 Pinocchio 964 be about? What is this? And I watched it and it blew my mind.
Yeah.
It just blew my mind. And you won't be bored because nothing ever slows down that much.
No. I'd say that sort of first act. It's a little slow.
I mean, it's the slowest. It's like being slow in it's like slow in the sense that Usain Bolt maybe is not as fast in the beginning of his laps as he is.
Yeah, it's slow in the context of like what's to come.
Yeah, but
it's not also slow for a movie, but it's slow in context of the third act and the second act and after. I'd say once they have their first night together, it just gets insane.
Yeah, at that point, it becomes more and more surreal.
It's such a surrealist nightmare. It actually is like a surrealist nightmare.
Yeah, it is like being trapped in a specific kind of nightmare, which is pretty cool, but also pretty fucking scary.
Yeah, it's a nightmare, dude. Nightmares are scary.
I did get a crack of like this evil organization. Their little offices just seemed to be like some shitty little cupboard.
Yeah. Big corporation. Yeah, I noticed that too. It wasn't like high-rise glass panes and it was a bit seedy, right?
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun to see like movies like this where this big evil who's terrorizing the world can only work out this pretty small location because they can't afford to get anything bigger.
Yeah. Anything else you wanna mention? I've kind of gone through most of my notes. Just let me double check it. You're fucking dying. You good?
Yeah.
Acting throughout was insanely good. Was something that I didn't mention. I thought everyone did absolutely turned up. And just
especially since they're not professional.
Everyone just sold it. Like they were real people to me. That was all my notes. Do you have anything you want to say about the movie? Obviously, it's a big one for you.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say I had a lot of catharsis towards the end. I don't know, relating it to, I don't know, you could say him, it was really cool to see him just break off his chains and put away his past trauma away. It was really cool just to see that literal visual play out.
Yeah.
And there's a lot to say and there's a lot I don't know how to put into words. It's really hard to try and do this, give this the justice it needs because it's just so visually like it's a visual onslaught. It's a audio onslaught. It's an onslaught on all the senses.
It's a lot. It is. It's a lot.
Yeah, he said like I can mention that. He said he wanted to quote unquote have the audience experience bodily sensations when showing this film. This wasn't screened that much in like its initial turnout.
Yeah.
So he had very loud speakers and he would show this film in like music venues in conjunction with live bands. So that he would show the movie and I guess the bands would play and like in the theaters, it would usually fit like 72 people. 200 people showed up. So there's a fire hazard there. But, word of mouth spread. Yeah, he used to like advertise this with like just handing out the posters in the street just to get this thing going.
So I guess commercially it didn't do great, or did it even get a release in the Western world?
Well, Unearthed Films released, I think, on DVD. Yeah, it released it on DVD in like 2007.
Okay.
Which got discontinued.
Oh, wow, so it took ages.
Yeah, it took ages. And then that's where the interview like Fukui took place. Then Media Blasters remastered it and restored it in like 4K and re-released it because that got discontinued. So it's like, I wouldn't say it made much, if any, money, but it's probably made more money than anyone could have ever expected now.
Yeah, well, if you said the budget is as low as you said, then it probably made a ton.
Yeah, it's a beautiful film, man. It's very funny at times.
Yeah, it's very in like a weird way though. I don't like not in a conventional sense.
Yeah, nothing about this conventional really.
No.
It's not much. Yeah, I want to know, like, what did you not like about it? If there's anything you didn't like.
Oh man, that's a really good question. What did I not like about it? Most of the things that I didn't like got resolved by the end.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, sorry.
I was quite, like I said. I think I was quite. It felt slow initially. Once they meet, and then there's that sort of 20-minute block or like 15-minute block of her, like them walking through that dark place, the home place. And I was kind of like, this feels slow. But then as soon as I had those feelings, shit got real. Shit just got fucking wild. So I guess that's really great. Yeah, that's obviously really great filmmaking. Like as soon as I was about to be like, oh man, this is a fucking slow burn, I was then like, butthole was clenched for like the rest of the film. So I was like, shit, this is about to get wild. I honestly, I didn't hate any of it or dislike any of it. I think my thing is like, I haven't consumed enough of that.
Yeah.
To like make it feel like normal. That makes sense. I feel like the more I watch, the more you share with me, it'll become more logical. And
I don't think this film will ever become normal, man. I mean, I've seen like a decent amount of Cyberpunk. This is still fucked up. Cyberpunk is pretty fucked up anyway, but this is still fucked up. This is still insane. And it'll probably be that way for my whole life. And I hope it is, because I think it's a small part of why it's great. But it's a small part of a bigger puzzle. But I have to mention, did you see the end credit scene? The end credit. It's nothing crazy, but you see him.
When does it happen?
Well, after the initial first credits, I believe.
Oh, I didn't watch past then. I think I was pretty eager to just like close my laptop and like just space out for a minute.
That's fair enough. But it's like a small little tidbit. I think it's just a behind the scenes. But it's Pinocchio and like Himiko in the club just dancing. And it was like...
What?
Yeah, they're just in like a fucking nightclub. She's got like a fucking 40 or whatever. And he's fucking dancing. And you know, it was very sweet.
Hold on. Let me pull this up right now. Jamie, pull up the the clip. Cut to black. Oh, here we go.
He's just fucking like tweaking out, man.
Wow, they're just going nuts. Oh wow, it lasts like a while. There's no way that must that must be a real nightclub, right?
Yeah, I think that's just them fucking around.
They just went out on a night out. I love it. I love it. And that's why I like this as well. This format is like, if I watch that without your comments, I would just take it at face value. But now I know like the budget and how it was made. It's like it gives it so much more charm.
Yeah. Also, one thing I need to mention. There was like a scene with like one of the evil doctors and his assistant, and they're making out, and they're sharing this. It's fucking like this slobber of saliva. It's such an exaggerated slobber of saliva.
Insanely over the top.
Oh, bro, it's so fucking gross, man. I think that freaked me out more than anything else. I hate saliva. It freaks me the fuck out. And that much of it. Ugh.
It was wet.
It was wet. I don't know why. It also looked like it was frozen in there.
It was fucked. Yeah. Now I'm thinking about it. It was fucked.
How much gum are these guys chewing?
Yeah. True.
Yeah.
So that's Pinocchio 964, bro.
Yeah, that is.
Thank you for sharing that. That was fire.
Anytime.